Good morning, everyone. This is Matt Pfeiffer, founder and CEO of Supplier Community, and just wanted to welcome you all to a new series that we've been kicking around probably as long as I've known TJ, who's our first guest this morning. I'm quite excited to have him here, but conversations on retail is something I've wanted to do for every bit of 10 years, maybe longer. And the idea is over the course of my 35-year retail career, I have had the opportunity to work alongside some people that are just really inspiring folks. And just wanted to give our audience an opportunity to get to know those people and for me to get to know these people a whole heck of a lot better in the process. So I would encourage each of you that are on here live with us, if you've got questions, submit those questions via the Q&A. Our first guest on this series is TJ Foltz, who I've gotten to know quite, I wouldn't say by accident, but we should know each other as well as we do, based on how things come together. But TJ's company, Humankind Beverage, actually won Walmart's first Get on the Shelf contest back in 2012. Is that right?
Right.
And it's an interesting story all the way around. So if you would, TJ, just start by kind of introducing yourself, share as much as you want to share, and then I've got some questions I kind of want to lead us through.
Well, thanks. It's an honor to be on your podcast. I love it. I can't remember exactly when you and I connected for the first time, but you had heard about us in this contest that Walmart had however many years ago. And it was their version of American Idol for products, basically. It was for the little guy. And whoever is too small to get on Walmart shelves, let's let all of America and all of the world cast their votes, and whoever gets the most votes wins, and whoever wins gets a spot on Walmart shelves. So a very long story short is that was literally weeks, maybe as little as 2 weeks after we had gotten our first bottles of Humankind Water. And the whole concept is that we're going to give 100% of the net profits to fund wells and filtration systems around the world to get people clean drinking water. And we figured if this really is a contest for the little guy and it's all about telling your story, that is the one thing we do have going for us is a pretty cool story, is because, for will actually say the world's biggest store. So we entered, and by some small series of miracles, we won the contest. And out of 4,300 competitors in every category under the sun, it wasn't just beverage, it was anything in any category at Walmart. And we were able to curry more votes than the other guys, and that really launched us out of a cannon.
Yeah, well, and without jumping, to the end of the story, Walmart, in retrospect, wishes that they would have been maybe a little bit more precise in their rules, and they probably wish they wouldn't have had to let the company that got the most votes win. You know what I'm saying? Because it wasn't the most, it wasn't the easiest for them to go along with after you guys had legit won the contest. But
well, yeah, it was dreamt up by their public relations team, and it was a cool idea. Let's do this American Idol-esque contest, but then nobody knows which buyer's desk the winner is going, what category it's going to be. So right. Nobody knows where it's going to end up.
Right.
Boom, it winds up plop on the desk of somebody that had no idea that they were going to have to kind of redo their whole planogram and their set.
Right.
No notice whatsoever. So yeah. It was interesting. They were great to us, and they worked hard to make it happen.
So what makes this story the most interesting is you don't come from, and again, I don't want to give away the whole thing. I really do want to start like at the very beginning. But what makes this story so interesting and so fun to follow is that you don't come from a business background. You were a youth pastor that had his heart broken on a mission trip, and came up with this idea to create sustainable mission work, essentially. And we can get to that. But what I want to talk about is kind of your childhood and your upbringing and the values that you grew up with that kind of shaped who you are and what you would become, and kind of set you on this path. So where'd you grow up?
Yeah.
And by the way, it's 3 days before Christmas here in Northwest Arkansas. So of course it's 65 degrees, and I know where you're at is probably just as nice. But tell us about, where'd you grow up?
Well, we're digging out from snow. We got that snowfall that came through
Yeah.
in this area of the country. I was born in Philadelphia and lived most of my life in Philly. It's funny that it being Christmas time, I was just reminded by my mom, who's still going strong. She lives now in Maine.
Okay.
Um, she said that I was always a bluesy kid during Christmas time. I was always kind of sad when I was little, and I kind of think that I figured that out in hindsight because I get so geeked up that the right present or the right gift or the right perfect something was going to fulfill my life and just kind of hit that bullseye. And now I'm all set. And because it never did,
Hmm.
that no cool bike could be cool enough
Hmm.
to answer all those longings that I see now in hindsight. I kind of had a spiritual journey of my own and became a Christian later on in my teenage years. And now I understand that while some material things are really quite wonderful, they're not going to be the answer for that longing in any of our hearts. So yeah, that's the beating heart of humankind. That's where I'm coming from. I did see it as a when I was on these missions events with an organization called Compassion International, one of these child sponsorship deals where you get a child pack and you put the kid's picture, on your refrigerator and pray for the kid and send in $30 a month and that kind of a thing. And there were moments where I saw the water that folks were forced to drink. And I knew it. I knew it because I'd worked with various Christian philanthropies before, but there's something about knowing it sort of in your mind, empirically knowing that that's a reality, and then actually seeing a person, a mother, with a baby bottle in her hand, and she's feeding the baby, and what's in the bottle, you're just praying that it's chocolate milk. You say, dear God, let that be chocolate milk. And it's not, and it's not, and it's water, and it's disgusting, and it's the only water that she has access to. And her only other choice is what? Let the child die of thirst, So when that's the only water that you have, that's the only water that you have to drink with, to cook with, to bake with, to wash with, to bathe with, everything. And so that affected me very deeply. And that was kind of what started this roil inside me that said, something's got to give.
So when would this have begun? Was it during college that you started, taking these trips, or when was your first
I
exposure?
started in youth ministry right out of school. Ironically enough, I'd studied at Syracuse to be a sportscaster. Go figure that one. But uh, I wound up going into ministry, one of those kind of right hand turns in the road, and wound going into ministry. And I was a youth pastor for basically the better part of my adult life. I started doing these speaking gigs with Compassion, where at the end of my speaking engagement, I would put out the child packs everywhere and get the kids sponsored. And as a thank you for that, and to better inform that, what Compassion did is they would take us every year to a developing country to see firsthand the difference that those dollars were making in the lives of those kids. So it was born out of the youth ministry thing. And then I saw it, and it deeply affected me. But I was still a youth pastor. I didn't have any ideas on how I would change that. And so it was a few years after that a friend and I were doing. He had challenged me to a time of prayer, kind of a deeper, more ingrained prayer time, and we were praying for a sustained number of days. And in the middle of that, some folks in Christian circles talk about that still small voice when you gently get a word, and then some talk about something that's more like a club in the head, like a 2x4 over the head, that you need to do this. And it was more of that variety. Let me just say it that way, that all of a sudden this idea came over me in a most powerful way, that go ahead and start a bottled water and use the proceeds to get people clean drinking water. And so that's what we did. I guess I had also heard, it's something just tangential interest in business, how much money that there was in beverages period, and in bottled water, etc. And so that thought became, oh my gosh, if you could just, if there was just one brand of bottled water that gave 100% of its net profits to go to, I by that time, now I'm starting to research once this idea's hit, and I'm looking at single individual names like Dasani, which is one of Coke's waters, or Smart Water, which is their kind of higher end water. And that one brand at the time was worth $1 billion in sales. $1 billion in sales from just one name, one brand that almost always sells by the individual bottle. And I said, my gosh, if we could take a fraction of that energy and move those funds toward the field, we would be getting hundreds of thousands of people clean drinking water. So there's the plan. Now the challenge was that Smart Water had Jennifer Aniston as its spokesmodel, and we had this. You know, we're at an instant disadvantage right there. You know.
So you wake up one morning and decide to give up your big salary position as a youth pastor to go work for nothing, absolutely nothing,
Oh, yeah.
because you didn't take a salary. I mean, when you say 100%,
No.
when you say 100% goes to work, with wells and filtration, you mean 100%.
Yeah, well, so 100% of the net profits, right? So there's
Yeah.
the cap and the label and the bottle, and
Right.
and what it costs to get it shipped there, and all of that stuff. So all of that comes out of gross profits. But when all is said and done, 100% of the net profits go on to fund these wells and filters. And then, I don't know how far ahead you want me to jump, but at some point, I pitched this idea to a big store on the East Coast called Turkey Hill, which is,
well, let's not go quite that far yet. So when you were going on these mission trips and you were speaking, you had the idea for what would become Humankind Water. What year was that roughly, and how much did that precede Walmart's Get on the Shelf contest?
okay, so the idea hit me in 2010.
Okay.
And that was in late 2010. And I immediately called some friends of mine who had more business knowledge in their pinky than I had in my whole ring finger. No, in my entire body, right? And so I called them, and I honestly, at one point I was kind of hoping they would talk me out of it. They're like, "You're nuts, man. Sit down until the idea passes." But both of them said, no, this is a great idea. And again, this is in Christian circles. So they're like, no, this is of the Lord. We should do this. And so we thought about it and prayed about it and strategized it, and really spent the better part of a year, honestly, kept our day jobs and figure out how exactly does one put water in a bottle and sell it. And I knew round figure about how to do that. Google was my best friend at that point. I literally start from zero. And how do you put water in a bottle and sell it? And where do you get a barcode and a QR code and all this stuff that, and fulfill all the state requirements and recycling, and no idea. So it took a long time, and we had to come up with the name, obviously, and we had to get trademarks and registrations, and we had to start the foundation, because in addition to sales, the idea was, okay, so every bottle raise X amount of money, but every bottle can also be an awareness raiser in addition to being a money raiser, and it raises awareness. And maybe, hopefully, we can get 1% of those who are Humankind buyers to be donors to our foundation, our 501c3 registered charity, right? And so when those dollars come in, then we really got a lot to move out to the field all in one fell swoop. So that was the plan. That took about a year, and then again, we had a business plan that was in place in the uh, the fall of 2011, and then we heard about the contest and literally pitched the entire business plan, just scrapped it. It
Had
was
you,
so
when the contest was announced, had you sold one bottle of water by then?
maybe one. Yeah,
Okay.
it's
And
hilarious.
did your mom like it? Did she like the way it tastes?
She thought it was delicious. Thanks for asking. She's had a second one since then. Yeah. So yeah, so we literally had one store, a little nutrition store on Haverford Avenue in Philadelphia. And it just literally selling this stuff out of the back of my car. And then we heard about the Walmart contest and we said, you know what? Scrap the business plan. It'll take 10 years. This thing is the entire planet
Hey,
overnight.
TJ. Hey,
Yeah.
you froze up when you said scrap the business plan. You froze up for a good 15 seconds. So if you can
Oh,
back up and
no.
say that again. So
So
the contest came up. The contest came along, and you decide to scrap the business plan because it would take 10 years.
it would take 10 years. So that we decided that the contest, the Walmart contest, Get on the Shelf, was the ultimate fast forward button. And we moved all of our energies towards winning the contest.
Yeah.
And in winning the contest, we literally went from one store on Haverford Avenue in Philadelphia to the world's biggest retail monolith on the planet, Walmart, which is
Hmm.
pretty crazy.
Yeah. So in broad strokes, what was your strategy for winning the contest? Because it was all about votes. It wasn't about convincing the merchant that the product would sell in their stores. It was all about getting the most votes. And social media was still kind of in its infancy then. So you didn't
Yeah.
have as much to work with. But what was your strategy?
So I remember at one point we had a powwow on the phone, had a conference call with the best minds that I could gather around the table, and I don't call them this disparagingly, they call themselves this, they call themselves geeks, because I knew that it was going to be some kind of technical angle with the social media that was going to be winning, and we spent an hour on the phone. And I had said at the beginning of that phone call that whoever wins this contest will be the best reminderers. That is, it was like a 2 month period where you had to vote daily. And so I said to the team, I think it's a made up word, I'm not sure, but I said, the best reminderers are going to win this contest. We need to remind people to vote daily. And how can we do that? And thunk and thunk and thunk and thunk and thunk, and nothing came up. And then there was one woman on our team just sitting there for the entire hour, quiet as a church mouse. She was in real estate. And there was this new app out there on beta by which you could pass your information via text through your cell phone to someone else, and they could text you their information back instantaneously if they just gave you double opt-in permission. I didn't even know what any of that meant back then, but that was right at the end of our conversation. Somebody said it, and then we didn't end the conversation because that was it. That was it. How do we remind these people? And so we used that tool and the fact that I was a youth pastor with some connections to other youth ministries all around the country. And I got my butt onto every stage that I could with a big audience. We wouldn't have won during COVID, right? In front of an audience, and asked everybody to whip out their cell phone, and we were gonna and told them the story. This is what happens if we win. We think this many lives are going to be saved. Please do this. And I was amazed at the number of people that enthusiastically got behind giving me 5 minutes of precious on stage time in front of a big audience to make this announcement. And everybody texted it, and then they immediately got a reply. And then for the next month and a half, they got a text message from us every day. And I remember saying this: we promise that we will not bug you once the contest is over, but we likewise promise that we will bug you until the contest is over because so much is at stake. And they got it. They got it. I'll tell you one funny story from the contest is I get this instant message on Facebook uh, in mid morning, and this woman goes, "I'm pissed at you." And I said, "All right, why are you pissed at me?" And she said, "I was in bed, lights off, dog down, computer asleep, heat turned down, everything, good night. And then I remembered that I hadn't voted yet that day for Humankind.
That's
And I
awesome.
got up and I cussed and I stomped down the stairs and I turned my computer back on and I said, they're not going to lose this contest because I didn't make my one vote. And she cast her vote and then she stormed back upstairs.
That's funny.
I said,
That's funny.
thank you so much. You're awesome.
So were you able to see the contest unfold in real time? You knew what your votes were, what second place was, or was it a mystery to the end?
It was something of a mystery to the end. My geeks, again, I call them that in love, had figured out some way to monitor in broad strokes our competition, which was unbelievably valuable, as you can imagine, figuring out who else was doing well. Other than that, we were blind, as was everybody else. One of the what Walmart's contest folks did is they used the verb trending. That was like the new thing then, and whoever was trending, and we kind of got the idea that the way that they were doing it is to intentionally take a snapshot of a little bit of time so that somebody new could be trending all the time. So we really like they wanted everybody who was kind of close to the top to be hopeful that that nobody was going to drop off and say, "Oh, we lost the thing." So I think they clearly purposely made it more difficult for us to know what was going on. We had a pretty good idea that we were in the top three coming into the end, but as late as 2 or 3 days before the end, I really thought we were in second or third place. Wasn't totally sure because there were other folks that were spending more to curry votes. And one of the ways that some of our competitors would do it is they would get these big online influencers to have their product next to them and pitch it in real time to get votes. And we just didn't have that kind of money. We know for certain now that whoever finished second in the contest probably spent somewhere like 20 factorial more than we did, uh, just because we could generate so much passion that this thing saved lives.
Yeah. So how were you ultimately notified that you had won, and what were the first steps that came after that?
There was a young lady that worked with the Walmart contest and with the PR team that notified me by phone. Even after the contest was over, they put everything on hold for like 48 hours while you could tell they were doing hardcore vetting to make sure that none of the potential winners was going to be an embarrassment,
Yeah.
that we were all true to who we said, and our product was true to what it said that we were doing. So we could tell we were getting vetted out. And at that point, we had a pretty good idea that we were first, second, or third, but we still didn't know. And I was walking, I remember like it was yesterday. I was walking out my back door to the garage, got this call from an area code that I didn't recognize. And she said, "Hi, this is such and such, and I'm from Walmart. And I just wanted to announce that you won the contest." And then she immediately went off on steps of what was to happen next. And we had been running so hard and so long we were literally on 3 and 4 hours of sleep in that last month every night. And I just dropped to a knee and I just tear trickling down my eye. I have no idea what she said after you won. Like, thank you so much. You're going to have to repeat what you said.
Yeah, I'm going to take a nap and get back to you.
I heard you won. Right.
So what were some of those first steps? I mean, obviously you needed to be set up as a Walmart supplier, and they had to figure out what winning meant to you, right? Because they weren't just going to, put you in the middle of, a couple of billion-dollar brands and all their stores.
Yeah, so the becoming a supplier was a challenge. A lot of the folks watching your broadcast know terms like Dun and Bradstreet, but we never heard that term before, and so we needed to have that, and we wanted it to move quickly, and it was moving very slowly, and we were changing the bottle and we were changing the size because of the uniqueness and the size of this order. It was going to be a bigger order than we've ever placed. So actually went to another bottler and another manufacturer, and we needed to check out the water source and all of this stuff. And as a result, it kind of dragged on. And so that was a challenge because we had all this momentum and rah rah, and you won and yay. And then, you know, crickets while we waited to get through all of the rigmarole that was necessary. Actually, ultimately, because there were some state restrictions that would have taken us time to get through, we wound up going in as the vendor of record through our bottler. We
Hmm.
wouldn't want to do that now. We've grown a whole lot, but at the time, we were just like, why don't we just go in with the bottler themselves being the vendor of record? And so that sped things up a little bit, but it was still just a protracted stretch of time. That was a challenging part of the whole thing.
Well, how much time did pass between winning the contest and seeing your first bottle sell through the register?
Too much, brother. I think the contest ended and the announcement came in like April, May.
Hmm.
And then we went all the way through the summer trying to figure out some of the things that were stopping. Again, they did the contest for the little guy. Anybody that would normally get an okay to enter into Walmart has crossed these steps along the way.
Hmm.
Um, Bottled water has some unique challenges in shipping it. Different states have different restrictions over how much you can sell before you have to pay redemption and recycling. You know how some states you get 5 cents back and some states you get 10 cents, and those licensing things, it took forever. And so we finally hit their shelves in in October,
Hmm.
and by that time you could just hear the wind blowing on the the momentum had pretty much died down by that point.
Yeah. How many stores were you awarded initially?
We were awarded just over 200 stores in our immediate backyard, which was Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, kind of the Middle Atlantic region, right around New York City, and down as far south as Delaware and Baltimore, and coming down to that part of Maryland. And then, I mean, honestly, it still would have been pushing a boulder uphill right out of the chute. But an unbelievable circumstance happened right after we got on the shelves at Walmart, which was Superstorm Sandy.
Hmm.
And when this is crazy, of course, we would never wish this on anyone because it was a devastating storm. But um, when all of the meteorologists are prognosticating where this thing is going to make landfall, they would make these little concentric circles like the letter C. And I swear to you, Matt, the area where they were saying hunker down, buckle down and strap it on and get ready because this is going to be a really rough ride. That area from Connecticut, through New York City, through the eastern part of Pennsylvania, down through Baltimore and Delaware, it was the exact footprint of where our stores were.
Hmm.
So right out of the chute, we're like, this is wonderful that we won, but how are we going to market the thing? We had people running who had never heard of Humankind just because every single water in the water aisle was getting bought up off the shelves.
Huh. Huh. Interesting. So what was one of the things I want to make sure we hit on is winning the contest at Walmart might not have been the best thing for you in terms of, near term economics, but it did put Humankind on the radar, right? And that made it easy for you all to start talking to other people.
Right. So one of the stores that we talked to not long after that was Turkey Hill,
Yeah.
which folks on the West Coast or in the Midwest might not have heard of or you might know their tea, their lemonade, their ice cream. But there are hundreds of grocery stores through Turkey Hill in the Middle Atlantic region, and we pitched that. I remember hearing two of the top executives at Turkey Hill just arguing right there in my presence, and one of them saying, "Yeah, they didn't." One of them said they got into Walmart, and the other one said, "Well, they won a contest to get into Walmart," and the other one said back, "They got into Walmart." And that was the end of that discussion. Like, it doesn't matter how you do it, you did it. And so clearly, clearly winning that contest opened up some really big doors for us.
And hopefully you can hear me. Yeah, there you are. So I heard everything you said. The screen just froze up, so no big deal. So what have the years been like since? And kind of fast forward and take us to where you are today, and what have been some of the bumps in the road and the major successes and some of the failures, and just bring us up to present.
So the one big highlight was in talking to Turkey Hill and pitching the water. There was the family that started Turkey Hill 100 years ago with a cow on a hill was a family that was very like-minded in terms of faith and wanting to give back and wanting to do something charitable for the community. In fact, one of the patriarchs of it gave massive amounts of money away before his death. You know, he had made a ton of money and just was an incredible philanthropist. And that kind of bled through the entire family. So little did I know that the great grandson of one of the founders was sitting to my left, and he was just smiling ear to ear at what a wonderful concept humankind is. And if your last name was Fry, you pretty much had, even though the family had sold to Kroger years earlier, if your last name was Fry, you pretty much had a job, you know, for as long as you would want one at Turkey Hill. And yet he was so enamored of the idea. And I had pitched the idea to his father, the former CEO. Why don't we add tea and lemonade to the mix here and expand the product options? And originally, the answer came back no. And I was really crestfallen because I thought they would go for the idea, and they had a lot of experience in making tea and lemonade. But what he didn't like was the model of giving 100% of the net profits, even to the point where I wasn't taking a salary. And he said, can we do something different with the tea and lemonade? Can we do it so that, you know, we make a more modest promise that still gives lots of clean drinking water, but not 100%? We need to be able to pay employees, and we need to be able to pay back investors. And I said, deal, as long as we can keep the promise that I originally made on the water. And so handshake and off we go. And so we added this second line. It's tea and lemonade, 50 gallons of clean drinking water for every bottle of our tea or lemonade that you buy. And the water goes on as is. And then what we came to realize over time was that maybe grocery stores aren't our sweet spot. For us, it was cafes. And so we started to, you know, the high-end water where there's not 47 different choices. If we're able to talk the cafe owner into taking us on, we're the only show in town. And, you know, obviously they sell more coffee than anything else by a long shot, but there are people that want to grab something else out of the grab and go cooler. So we're selling in tea, we're selling in lemonade. Eventually we got to the point where we were, if ever our van was half full as we're going around doing our own kind of DSD, our own, you know, distribution, we started saying, well, what else do these stores, these restaurants, these cafes use that we could take on our own? No philanthropy attached at all. No promise made, nothing. You know, the promise is on our own products, but let's take the other stuff that they use. And we started doing that and sort of became our own distributorship. And so now we distribute to about 300 different cafe restaurant customers. When you're not in the middle of a pandemic lockdown, we do that. And so that's to the Middle Atlantic region. And this very day, we've got our drivers driving all over the place and making these deliveries for us. That was huge, Matt, for us, because that bought us time. You know, no matter how many successes that you have, unless you have millions and millions and millions of dollars to pour into marketing, you have to wait for your brand to get traction. And that happens oftentimes. I'm convinced, since we started all this thing, there are scads of great products, great ideas, and great, great great tasting food items, whatever, that don't survive because it costs money just to stay alive, and too many companies bleed out while they're waiting to get the traction that's required. And for us, becoming our own distributorship bought us that time that we needed. It was huge.
Hmm.
That's a credit to Ethan Fry. That was his brainchild. We ran with it, and it's been nothing but successful.
That's great. And I know last time you and I spoke, I know it was really briefly, but you had just gotten some good news again from Walmart. I mean, where's that relationship today?
Yeah, so we are going back into Walmart after a somewhat lengthy hiatus, and this time we believe we're going to get 2,000 stores and not 200. So it will basically be every Walmart store east of the Mississippi
Wow.
that carries those high-end waters. So when you walk down the water aisle, you know, you've got the cheapy case packs of every brand under the sun. And then there's one little section that's devoted to the higher end waters, the premium waters. So that would be like Smart Water and Life Water and Fiji and what else? Essentia, Perrier, that kind of thing. So we will get a facing or two as Humankind. We're redoing the label, and we're looking forward to going in there sometime around mid-March. Very, very exciting development for us.
So I know you've learned an awful lot in this journey, but what would be some kind of the high points, if you will, that you could pass along to other people that are, in an upstart CPG, company, or taking brand new brands to market? What have you learned?
Um, that it's challenging.
Yeah.
At least in beverage, they say that 94% of beverage companies are dead and gone after the first year. Never do a second run period at their bottling facility or at their cannery. Never do a second run. 94%. And of those 6% that survive the first year, half of them are gone by the end of the second year.
Hmm.
So it's just a precipitous drop off that if you can survive that. So my advice is, again, do everything you can to minimize that cash burn early, to minimize the bleed. Keep your day job as long as you possibly can and work out of your basement, which everybody's doing now anyway, right? As long as you possibly can. Don't buy the office, don't buy the truck, don't buy the equipment that you don't need until you absolutely need it. And uh, don't underestimate how much it's going to cost to get your whatever into a package, and don't overestimate how much people are going to love it.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of folks that are like, oh, this is grandma's recipe and it's the greatest thing since forever. And it may be, but you have to have enough money to get on the shelf. Maybe sometimes you have to pay slotting fees on the shelf. You certainly have to pay marketing, or you have to go out and you have to bootstrap it and do sampling events in the grocery store, and you have to find a way to get in there and do that. And all of that stuff takes time and takes money. So stretch that thing as long as you can, give yourself as much advantage as you can, and pray.
So what's next? What's next
Well,
for Humankind?
Well, the biggest thing right now, 2,000 stores is more than we've gotten by a long shot from anybody. So that's a big deal. I was just drawing a map around the eastern half of the United States and up to Maine and down to Florida and up the Mississippi River and around to Chicago. And, It's a huge territory. Um, Obviously, for us, having success in those 2,000 stores is huge. I'm not saying we're gonna pack up the tents and go home and cry if it doesn't work out. Certainly, but we're putting everything into making sure that it works out. When it works out, I'm saying not if, when it goes well there, it should open up the rest of the country, and it should open up other opportunities at nationwide realtors, huge grocery store chains that are saying, well, it's kind of like New York. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, right? And so there's a lot riding on us doing well in Walmart this go round.
Yeah. I know you've never aspired to be the CEO of a beverage company. I know every time we've talked, it's always been about saving lives, right? And I know that you've remained true to that vision from the very beginning. But how do you want to be remembered? How do you want as a human being to be remembered, and how do you want the company to be remembered?
Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying wholeheartedly. My son wound up going to Penn, which was founded by Ben Franklin, and you can walk into one of the main buildings there, and it says wherever he wherever he wrote what was to be remembered of him, even on his own kind of memorial tombstone, he wrote, "Here lies Benjamin Franklin, printer." And I'm like, printer? My gosh, you discovered electricity. You invented everything. And you said printer? Like, is that what you're really most proud of? Okay, whatever. You're Ben Franklin, right? Uh, but for us, for me personally, it wouldn't be about being CEO or anything that I've learned in business. I am so thrilled that we've been able to get people clean drinking water, and the response. I held up this little picture earlier, just these three little guys at this one pump that we did in India, and that is so true to form of everywhere that we've been. The sound in a village that just got clean drinking water is laughter, screaming, loud, joy-filled laughter, and I will never get old for me. So I would much rather be known as a philanthropist than a CEO or a business person. I honestly, I don't consider at this moment, I don't consider myself a very good business person, but we're just kind of figuring out how to get our story told so that people know it and people glom onto this product and onto this cause. Because it really is, it's more about saving people's lives than anything else. And there's a spiritual component there for us as well. We talk about what's in this bottle and what's coming out of this well, this borehole is H2O, but we talk about the living water as well. At many points along the line, we've had people ask us, why are you doing what you're doing? And that's our opportunity to preach without hopefully getting preachy.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't ask you how many projects. I mean, what kind of projects do you have planned for 2021? Are you guys restricted in terms of travel for these new wells and filtration
Yeah.
systems?
Yeah, one of the things we put on the side of the tea and lemonade, which was kind of a big debate on our team, was come with us. You, the consumer, come with us, jump onto a plane and go with us to one of these places, and we'll show you. You get to meet firsthand some of the folks who are now drinking clean water as a result of your purchases. And we've had some takers along the way. That's been really fun. But that has obviously been shut down completely with COVID. We're up to over 150,000 people drinking clean water in Haiti, India, different countries in Africa, Latin America, Flint, Michigan, and a couple of times, in response, emergency disaster relief situations, we're able to get people clean drinking water rather immediately, in a hurricane disaster relief situation here in the stateside. Obviously, the needs of folks in other developing countries are much greater than folks in America, but it is satisfying and refreshing from time to time to be able to help our fellow American when they need clean drinking water. Um, Walmart, again, this is a huge opportunity for us. when we do well in Walmart, it really should open up the floodgates, no pun intended, for a whole lot more on the philanthropy side. And again, every bottle, in addition to raising money, also raises awareness. So we're hoping to see an increase in our donors through our foundation. I'm hoping to be a seven-figure um, a seven-figure foundation in terms of the total money that we give from the water and from the foundation, in the coming 2 years.
So my last question is, what can we do for you? What can the folks that are listening live and the folks that will listen to this in the weeks and months and years to come, how can we get involved?
I would love to tell you that at this moment, we have the perfect marketing plan in place for what we're going to do when we hit Walmart in mid-March. And that is still coming together. And if there are folks out there, it's not going to be something conventional. We're not going to do TV ads and radio. We would spend ourselves dry in the efforts of doing that. So it's going to be something unconventional. Something kind of pay it forward-esque, sort of like the contest itself. So we're all ears. Nothing offends me to hear other people's ideas. And the other thing you can do is anybody that's really touched, moved by this cause, especially at the end of year, is a big deal, is to go to our website, behumankind.com, behumankind.com, and click the donate button and make a donation. And you're allowed to pick whether you want 100% of that to go to the field or some of that to be used for overhead and administration. But if you don't say anything at all, 100% of it goes to the field and gets used for these wells and filtration systems. So I'm hoping we'll be up over 200,000 people with clean drinking water in the very near future.
All right. TJ Foltz, founder and CEO of Humankind Beverage. You're a good man. You're a good friend. Thank you so much for making time to visit. And I hope you and your family have a Merry Christmas.
Matt Pfeiffer, you're awesome. Thank you so much for having me on Conversations on Retail. It's an honor for me to be asked, and to you and yours, a very Merry Christmas as well. Stay safe.
Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.